Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everybody.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam.
How is everyone doing? Now I will go back to our story. Now, so Qabil, after he killed his brother Habil, he ran away. So when we look into the books of history written by the Muslim historians, there are two very, very important names. One name is the name of a historian called Hafil ibn Kathir, and the other one is At-Tabri. At-Tabri is one of the oldest historians that we find who lived very closer to the earlier times. And then in the middle time, we find Ibn Kathir. There is another one who wrote about some history, but later history mostly he talked about, that is Ibn Athir. That's different from Kathir with Kaf. So they write a lot of accounts about these things, and we will be looking into their research, Ibn Kathir and Imam Tabri, to get to know some more information about what really happened after Adam alayhi salam or during his last days. One thing we learn is that after Habil was killed by Qabil, Qabil ran away to Yemen. And once he ran away to Yemen, you know, he got married and stuff like that. He settled in Yemen, whatever was the case, without going into much details. Now it was Shaitan's opportunity that after he made him commit the very first sin, he wanted him to commit more sins. So he came to Qabil as a human being and said, Qabil, do you know why Habil was accepted? Remember, the fire came and took Habil's sheep, but didn't take Habil's awful grains. And he said, no, I don't know. He said, because Habil used to secretly worship fire. So fire was very pleased with him. So why don't you also start worshiping fire? So he took him away from the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala into worshiping fire. So Qabil then started putting fire together and he started worshiping him. With time, Shaitan said, well, it doesn't really make sense. If you only have a little bit of a fire that you worship, why don't you build a temple? So he built a fire temple with his children and they started worshiping fire. Well, Qabil was later on punished in his life for the sin that he committed against his brother, and he had a very, very serious, severe disease, and then he died of that disease in the end. But long story short, Qabil's children were also fire worshippers. They were away from the good teachings that were given to them by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So after that, what happened was that Shaitan wanted to deviate them more and more and wanted them to be away from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have ordered them. So reappeared to them after many, many years, because back in those life, people used to have a life of like 800 years, 900 years, 700 years. So they used to live a very long life. So after a few hundred years, when Qabil had enough people gathered around him, and he came again, this time as a servant, as a boy. And he came to one of the men and he started telling him stories that, you know, I came from so-and-so place. I need some place to stay. I need some place to work. I'm just a boy and I'm just a teenager. And he said, oh, okay, why don't you stay with me? But you got to work for me. So Shaitan said, okay, I will work for you. But Shaitan had a different plan in his mind. After he started working for a few days or a few months, he started building something that they have never seen before. And that was a musical instrument. He built something like a flute. So he started playing the flute. And he started playing at different places of the city. And people were so amazed. They've never seen something play like an instrument. They were like, oh my God, what is this? He said, I am a skilled artist. I can carve things and I can make these cool things and I can play for you if you want me to play it for you. And they were like so amazed. And anyway, they were away from the good teachings of Islam because Islam says no, big no to music. And he wanted to use the music to deviate people away from the Islam. So So basically, people started following him around. Then other cities and villages came to know about that there's this instrument that somebody plays and it's so beautiful. So that other people started visiting where he was living. And he said, you know what, guys, I cannot play for all of you all the time. I have other things to do. So you know what, let's all put together once a year festival of music festival. Everybody should come on that day and I will play for you guys. And that's exactly what they did. They had an yearly festival when everybody would gather around and the shaitan would play music for them. And that's how they started getting involved in music. Then among the children of Qabil, there was somebody by the name of, that's come in the book is Qabin. Qabin was the very first one who said, let me try to create maybe more instruments. So he's created another kind of a flute, he created drum, he created other musical instruments. So they were very much involved in all these sins. And over the period of time, on the other side, away from them, Adam alayhi salam's other children were growing and the population was growing. And for many, many thousands, hundreds of years have passed, and the offsprings or the children's children, like in thousands. Everybody's growing. So when they started growing, they could not all live in Makkah. So they started traveling in different places all over. And then some of these children actually settled very close to where Qabil and his children were. And some of them thinking, who are these people that we have never seen before? And then some of the eldest told them that this is one of the oldest son of Adam alayhi salam, Qabil, who killed his brother Habil and ran away and settled over here. We should not go and meet them. They are sinners. They are bad people. They said, no, those are our relatives. We should go and meet with them. The elders kept stopping them, but they didn't listen to their elders, and they started making a move to meet them. And then they went there and met them. And then again, shaitan took over their emotions, and they also liked the bad things, and they started to settle there. When Adam alayhi salam came to know about this, he ordered his son to stop their children from going into this place where Qabil and his offspring, his children, are settled, because they're doing sins. So some of the sons took their kids into caves and said, we will live in the mountains, will not go down to those people. Some of them actually built a wall, like a city wall, and said, we will not go outside. But still, people who wanted to sin went and met these guys. And unfortunately, the population where Qabil was growing because a lot of the people were getting involved in these sins. Adam alayhi salam received 21 scrolls or suhuf from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the teachings of how a Muslim should live his life. Because all of these believers, from Adam alayhi salam to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, all the believers were what? Muslims. Then Adam alayhi salam had a son. His name was Sheeth. Sheeth. Sheen Ya Tha. Sheeth. In English, we say Seth. Okay? So Sheeth alayhi salam was born. When Sheeth alayhi salam was born, Jibreel alayhi salam came to Adam alayhi salam and said, this is the gift from Allah. This son of yours will be the prophet of God after you, and he is the one that you should train very well. So Adam alayhi salam taught Sheeth alayhi salam a lot of things, took oath from him that he will take care of the people after him, and told him that many, many years after Sheeth alayhi salam, there will be a big, huge flood. That was a flood of Nuh alayhi salam that was told to Sheeth alayhi salam. And Sheeth alayhi salam received 50 suhuf or 50 scrolls. So what Sheeth alayhi salam did, when Adam alayhi salam passed away, Sheeth alayhi salam buried him in Makkah. Where did he bury him? Well, we have two different places. Some people say he was buried in a mountain called Abu Qubais. Some people say he was buried in a mountain called Bose. And he was buried in a cave because back in those days when the rain would come, the land would get flooded. So they wanted to bury him above the ground level in the cave. And the cave was known by the name of Al-Kanz, the treasure. When Hawa alayhi salam passed away a year after, she was also buried in the same cave next to Adam alayhi salam. Then during the time of Sheeth alayhi salam, hundreds of years have passed since Adam alayhi salam rebuilt the Kaaba, right? So the Kaaba got a little weaker because of the time. As I said earlier, all the questions I will answer in the end. So if anybody's raising any hands, I will be looking at all the questions in the end, not right now, okay? So what happened was that Sheeth alayhi salam rebuilt the Kaaba again from the bricks and the stones and the clay bricks. He rebuilt them, and that's how he actually reinstated the building of the Kaaba. Sheeth alayhi salam tried his level best to organize the scrolls that were given to Adam alayhi salam and were given to Sheeth alayhi salam. He put them all together so that it's easy for people to follow. Sheeth alayhi salam then passed away. When he passed away, he was 912 years old. But before Sheeth alayhi salam passed away, he asked his son Anush to become the leader of these people. So Anush was not the prophet, was just the leader of the people, and he continued to follow in the footsteps of Sheeth alayhi salam. Sheeth alayhi salam also made sure that as many as possible, because the human population increased in a few 100,000 by this time, and there were many others on the other side where Qabil was living. So Sheeth alayhi salam tried his level best to go to all these people and make sure that they are on the right path. But again, not everybody follows the right path. Some people do, some people don't. So that's why Sheeth alayhi salam, before he passed away, he told his son Anush to become the leader of the believers and keep doing what he's doing and try his level best. But again, there were people who escaped from here and went on the other side and meet Qabil's people. What happened was, now the Qabil and his children and the other people who came from outside to settle with them, they grew in more and more and more number, that they were larger than the other side. And that's why during the time of Nuh alayhi salam, when Nuh alayhi salam has to preach all these people to Islam, Nuh alayhi salam had to go and meet all these people. So when the flood of Nuh alayhi salam came, all these people died. That's why the flood was so massive, so big, that it had to drown all these people who were causing all these problems on the earth. So after Anush died, then his son Qiyan became the leader of the believers, and that's how the things continued till another prophet was born, and his name was Idris alayhi salam. So Adam alayhi salam is the first prophet. He was sent to the entire humanity, to the entire mankind, and all the humanity and mankind were his children. So he preached them, he taught them, he was given 21 scrolls. Okay. Also, let me tell you one thing. Adam alayhi salam was taught many symbols based on which many languages were born. Those symbols together, if you write them down, it will take 21 pages to just write those symbols. So many languages were taught to Adam alayhi salam. That's why among his children, many languages came into existence and many languages changed over time. Okay, guys, I'll see you next time. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.